Welcome, everybody, to our first office hours in quite some time. My name's Seth Wilson. I'm VP of Operations here. I'm joined with Professor Emeritus Joanna Strombaugh. She's our Customer Success Manager. Knows a whole heck of a lot about TimesUs and how MSPs use it. As I mentioned, this is something that we used to do for a little while, but then we started growing like crazy, and that's always like kind of the first thing to get ditched when things like that start happening. So we haven't done them for a while, but we're restarting them because what we found is that conversations with our customers tend to be incredibly valuable for us and how we develop the product, how we respond to it, how we create documentation and things like that. But also to give you guys a chance for the same thing, to hear conversations with other customers at TimesUs, so you can see how other MSPs use it, effectively. Typically, how these things are going to work, we'll cover a topic, kind of a topic of the month, and then just open the floor to questions. Typically, we'll cover a topic for maybe 10, 15 minutes and leave the rest of the time open for questions. Don't be shy. Feel free to ask us anything or make comments. Certainly we can talk about feature requests, but the most effective way to do that is our existing kind of feature request mechanism. So keep that in mind. But seriously, throw out anything. I myself, just yesterday got back from a 2-week trip to Glacier and Yellowstone National Park. So if you guys have any questions about slow moving bodies of ice or geysers, I'm also your guy. I've learned all about them for the past 2 weeks. So this month, what we're covering is our email template editor. Why we're doing this is that tomorrow we actually finally end support, after telling you guys for almost 2 years that we're ending support for it, of our legacy HTML editor. And we replaced it with a WYSIWYG email editor that's a whole lot easier to use. And the email editor is important for a couple of reasons. One is that it helps you really kind of construct workflows that are relevant and personalized to your specific MSP and your specific use cases. It's a great way to personalize it and to make TimesUs your competitive advantage. And so we're going to kind of go over this new email editor that's been around for a better part of a year and a half, and just kind of show you how to craft some of your own workflows and run through a couple of examples. And so for this, I'm going to hand it over to, again, Professor Emeritus, Dr. Joanna, to explain it. We'll run through that. Feel free to shoot some questions in the chat or the QA section, wherever you want to put them, while she's talking, and we'll cover some of that stuff at the end, as well as a few news updates from TimesUs. So without further ado, please take it away, Joe. Show us that new email editor, and how the heck are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. The sun is out, even though it's smoky here in our area of Idaho, all the fires going on. But
doesn't help. Oregon's basically on fire right now.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. So the email editor is great. I'm excited to share it with you guys if you haven't seen it. It has been around for a while, but we know that when we release features, especially previously, we were kind of releasing them ad hoc, and we're on a set schedule, that things can get missed, or you've come in new and you haven't actually been exposed to them much, because we have built out some defaults that are great. And I do find that most of our customers just are like, you know what, it works, leave it. But there are situations when you may want to have your own email template. And I'm actually going to cover one of those use cases. And if you've ever been in any of my training sessions, you know that I love documentation. And so I throw it out like candy at a parade. And so I will be putting documentation inside the chat for you guys to grab and then access to do this on your own, right? So you can go and actually apply these processes for your own appointment types and your team. Please, I'm a talker. I love to cover this stuff. Please put any questions you guys have either in the chat or the question and answer so that we can actually address it. A big part of today is we want to hear from you guys, okay? So let me move you guys to the right here and then share my screen. And let's get the right one going here.
Apparently, our chat was disabled. I just re-enabled it, so you should be able to throw
Oh.
stuff in there when you want to.
Okay, are we looking at my demo instance here?
That we are.
Perfect. Let me rearrange thing. Okay, so to access the email templates and the email editor, when you go to email settings in app, you'll see these defaults are listed out here, okay? And this is what I was talking about earlier, that the defaults are there. One use case they don't cover is sending your customers an email for an already scheduled meeting. So they've already scheduled their appointment and you want to send them a reminder saying, hey, don't forget you have this meeting coming up. And so that's the use case I'm covering today and showing you guys how you can use the email editor to make this happen. Okay, so I want to show you the first step here, which is creating a new email template. So on the top right-hand corner, we click new email template. You would put your name of the template here, which we can just put appointment reminder or whatever suits your needs, right? Something important to keep in mind are these types. And so this actually designates where you can access these email templates within the appointment type. So it's only going to show reminder templates in a reminder type section, right? So we have to be intentional about this. We're setting up a reminder template, okay? And then we have some additional functionality here. So sometime last year, we came out with the ability to do different languages. Now, this doesn't translate the text. What it does do is control the variables to populate correctly in that language. So if you're going to build out, you know, an email that's going to be in French, you would pick the correct language, and then our variables can populate correctly in French. And you will still have to populate the text yourself in the language. Does that make sense? Yep. So we're doing English. You have the ability to start with this default template, and you can actually build out your default template that will automatically populate with this. But we also have this function here to copy an existing email template. So if you build out one and you would like to just make adjustments, but have it for maybe a different scenario. So let's say you have a QBR meeting type that you want to have a specific confirmation email type for that to set expectation. You can do that and just copy a confirmation email that you already have, right? So you're not having to build it out from scratch. You can just make some adjustments, right? Today, what we would do is we would copy the default reminder email. Now, our default reminder email is actually to remind your customer that they still need to schedule their meeting, not that they already have. So that's why we're building this out, because we're going to take and we're going to change the verbiage to remind them that they've already scheduled. They have a meeting coming up, maybe let's say in an hour, and give them the option to reschedule or cancel. Okay, so we're gonna power over, because if you try to demo anything live, you jinx yourself. So we're gonna do this, okay? So I've now populated
You can tell Joe used to work for ConnectWise. You know, that's where the trauma comes from.
Yeah, it's just all around here. So I've come in here and I've edited the verbiage to ensure it is exactly what I need for this type of email that I'm sending. So here's that appointment reminder name that we put on the template. Okay, so that's internal facing. But the subject line is the subject line of your email. And you can see here highlighted in light blue, these are variables that we have populated within the system that you can use. And it's easy to plug these in once you realize how to do it, right? So sometimes people miss this, so I like to acknowledge it. So if you hit shift and then bracket, that will populate a list of emails. So we'll just do it here to show you. So shift, hold it down, hit bracket, and then you have all these smart variables that are going to pull information from your tickets as well as from your scheduling request. Okay, so I've used this within this email template to pull smart information, like my customer's first name. I've pulled in the account name or the resource that they're scheduled with, okay? I think this messed up a little bit here, that this actually needs to be shift and then appointment name. And I'm going to use, because this is customer facing, an external name. If I was building out a reminder template for maybe my tech, then I would use the internal name, right? And then what you get to do, something I like to point out, which is kind of a gotcha that I see in support, is we have these different sections. So you have a text box, but you also have a section, okay? And these sections and text boxes have display conditions. And the biggest thing that I see people getting kind of caught by is they go and they do a preview and they're like, this whole section is not showing. So something you want to look for is click on this section and then come to the right and you can see there's display conditions. And a lot of the times what's going on is this only include this section in the email when displays. So you want to check that for not only sections, but text boxes, okay? So here, why you might need this is, let's say we have this section, we always want to show it, but maybe sometimes this meeting type we don't need to show the ticket number because there isn't a ticket correlated to it. So now we have this text here that we can say, okay, only include this text when a ticket number is present. Okay, so that gives us some smart functionality. And there's a bunch of different options here that you can see what this is going on about, right? So it gives you some different options on what is accessible. Okay, now we do have buttons. So this button is for rescheduling or cancellation. This is something that I put in here because we're an hour out from our appointment. And if we want them to be able to reschedule or cancel before, let's say we have it set that they can only reschedule up to 30 minutes before their meeting, we can give them that option to make that change an hour out. And it's kind of a last minute, like, hey, you know, let us know if you need to move this around. So down here, we can smart fill what this button is tied to. So is it the scheduling URL, which is where they are actually scheduling the appointment? So it wouldn't be this meeting type. The rescheduling is to populate rescheduling and cancellation. And then we have here online meeting URL. So, and you could even put another button in here that if this is a Microsoft Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting, you can say, okay, use this button to join your session, right? So you could also use that in this meeting or in this appointment reminder. Make sense? So we've covered buttons here. We have text boxes and sections. Now, to include a new section here, so we have delete, but we can also just close it. And this gives you more options here. So you can say, I want an additional space here. So I'm just going to drag a space. That gives you a little bit of room between the lines. You can also add additional text boxes in there. You can add an image, okay? And then if you click on this image, you can actually add a link to that image, okay? So this is something I've had come up, people wondering if it's something you can do. It is. So you can actually have an image and have a link that correlates to it, okay?
And keep in
Obviously,
mind, right? Like the images don't need to be of puppies. They can also be like icons and things like that, right? So if you want to
yeah.
have an icon that sort of indicates an action, it's a good way to use it as well.
Another thing, you know, an example, I had a customer build this out. He had a storefront and he wanted to show an image. And then when they clicked on it, it actually went to like a Google directions to his storefront so that people knew how to get there, right? And it made it really easy for them to gain access and get there and be on time, right? So we're trying to reduce no-shows. We're trying to reduce them being late or being unprepared. So feel free even to have, you know, if you need to set expectations and say, hey, don't forget to, you know, power off or whatever you need them to do to be prepared for this call, you can put that in this email as well. Okay. So down here at the bottom, we also have this send preview. So I highly recommend when you've built it out, send yourself a preview. So I did that earlier. And you can see when you look at this, you get kind of an idea of how it's populating. So you can make adjustments, maybe adding in some spacers here if you would like. Now it's not going to look perfect because there isn't a ticket for this to pull from. There isn't a client name to pull from. So just keep that in mind when you preview it, that some things may not look exactly as you're going to actually see in a real life scenario. Okay. Okay, think that is about it. I would say that another use case I've seen here is this logo. So sometimes we get customers that are like, I have, you know, two brandings going on in my company, right? I need some emails and some appointment types to be for a specific brand. You can try to do that with the imaging or the images or, you know, putting your logo in there, things like that, okay? And I'm happy to work with you guys if you have a specific situation you're trying to build out. This yellow chat box down at the bottom, I'm sure you've seen some automated messages of me talking to you there, but you can also reach out and Jason and I typically watch this and you can get help with a specific email template you're trying to build out. Okay.
But if we have no further questions, last second, Josh throws one in. Any plans to add more variables? Maybe project name. That's a good point. We do have that kind of project functionality. I wonder if that is something that could be brought in, something that will bring up. You know, and again, I think in the chat there is a feature request thing there, the roadmap.timezest.com feature request. Good place to put those sort of things, but that's a good one. Something I'll definitely bring up. Let's see here. Oh, another one I got via text message. You could just use the team thing here, John. But in terms of like why we're doing a HubSpot integration, probably a good thing to point out there. As I mentioned, or probably haven't mentioned yet, we did integrate TimeZest with HubSpot. And we're going to start doing it with other CRM tools as well, but HubSpot being best of breed was the most sensible place to start. But we're integrating similarly to how, you know, HubSpot shows their own meetings with their own software, like a Calendly. Within the customer and company record, you will be able to see when a meeting is scheduled. So you have that documentation and that timeline of when things are happening, and also so you can add notes to it within HubSpot. And why we're doing that, right, is, we're a tool that was originally built for the service desk, right? That's our home. We want to make sure that we're really good on the service desk. But we've actually made it we've reached feature parity with things like a Calendly in the sales domain for a couple of important reasons. One, we don't think you should have to use two different scheduling tools of the same MSP. We want to make sure that we can satisfy all those requirements. But there are some special use cases that we can do that nobody else can. So your sales team, they're living in Office 365 land, right? That's where their calendar is. Your service team's probably working off their PSA calendar. We're the only tool that can look at both of those things. Say in the case of what's called a panel schedule, you want to get someone from sales and a more technical resource on the line that actually knows what they're talking about in the same meeting. Could be something like a QBR, could be a project kickoff, could just be a sales call, right? And so you can do that. You can do panel invites between someone in services working off their PSA calendar and someone sales working off their 365 calendar. Pretty interesting tool. Doesn't sound like much, but when you can actually cut out all that schedule, I mean, really, it's just that scheduling problem times two when you need to get two people on, or times three when you need to get three people on. So some time savings there. If you haven't checked it out for sales, your sales team yet or executive team yet, we actually have a little promo. You can Google TimesZest for sales promo. You can get that page immediately. And we're offering a free user for 6 months if you want to give it a try. Because we find over and over again, people love TimesZest. They're like, yeah, but my sales teams is using Calendly. Not necessary. Just let us know. We can add a user, and you can see for yourself that just as good, if not better. So let me check to see if there are any more questions. We look good to go there, but as always, right? Reach out to help@timeszest.com or use that chat within the application. Best way to get a hold of us, and we will be happy to help with anything you got.